grade. Today's math assignment is going to be a review of all the math vocabulary words that you guys have been learning in the past few weeks. We started with angles, and you learned a lot of different vocabulary words for that, and you learned different types of angles. And then we went on to lines like perpendicular, parallel, and intersecting, and horizontal and vertical. So we're just going to go over it very quickly, and I'm just going to talk about some of the things that some of you might have gotten confused with. And then after this, you're going to do a Google Forms assignment on it, just for me to see that you understand it. So we started off learning about what angles were, and an angle is when two rays share the same endpoint, they form an angle. So it was just two rays that form an endpoint. Share the same endpoint. Then we have a ray. A ray is part of a line that continues without end in one direction, and it has one endpoint. So remember the endpoint, that is a ray, and then if you put another ray together, that makes the angle. Okay. Then we learned the vertex, and the vertex is the point at which two rays or line segments meet to form an angle. So right here is our vertex. Okay, and that was important for when we were measuring angles. And then we learned line segment. A line segment is part of a line with two endpoints. So it just looks like this. That means this line can't continue on. One vocabulary word that we didn't go over was just the vocabulary word line. And a line simply is, it can continue on, it has no endpoint. So the arrows means it continues on. So it means there is no endpoints on either of these ends. So that's just a line. It continues on and on in each direction. So those were the first couple of vocabulary words we learned. Now I'm going to go to which you guys did very well actually with these vocabulary words. Now we're going to go on to types of angles. Okay, so next you guys learned different types of angles. For the most part, you guys did well with this, but there was some confusion that I'll go over after I go over each one. So you learned first acute angle. An acute angle is any angle with the measure of 0 to 89 degrees. And I said, remember, think cute. The word cute is an acute. So cute, like little angles. So an acute angle means the two rays are closer together, like this. So this would not be an acute angle. It would not be an acute angle. So if I was to measure this, it'd be anywhere between 0 and 89 degrees. And you know it's an acute angle. So you either can tell by the way it looks or by the measurements. So one of the questions was pick the measurements. I don't remember exactly the wording, but it was like pick the measurements that would be an acute angle. I think it was actually for obtuse, but that question would be, so if you saw like 88 degrees, would that be an acute angle? Yes. If you saw 25 degrees, would that be an acute angle? Yes. If you saw 105 degrees, would that be an acute angle? No, because it's not between 0 and 89 degrees. So that was the first type of angle. Next, we had right angle. And that is just an angle with the exact measurement of 90 degrees. So if you were to measure it, no matter what, it would be 90 degrees. Not 91, not 89, 90 degrees. And you can tell by looking at it because it's like perfect. It looks perfect. Like a corner of a square, okay? That's how you think of it. Or you could think of corner, stair steps, or anything that is a perfect square. Okay? And then we learned obtuse angle. An obtuse angle is any angle with a measure of 91 to 179 degrees. So the two rays are further apart. So That's an obtuse angle. That's an obtuse angle. That is not an obtuse angle because they're closer together. So the same thing with measurements. 105 degrees. That's an obtuse angle because it's anywhere, it's a measurement between 91 and 179. 125. That's an obtuse angle. Okay, so remember the measurements too. And then the last one you learned was a straight angle. Oh, the line's a little messy. Let me try again. That's what a straight angle is, 180 degrees. So just like the right angle is 90, this always is 180 degrees. So don't get confused. So on the assignment last week, there was one of these on there. And some of you put 0. And I could tell the confusion because it looks like it's going through the 0, but it's 180 degrees, okay? Anytime you see just a straight line, it's 180 degrees. 0 would mean that the two rays, I don't know if I could draw it. There's the one, right? They would be like on top of each other, okay? So 180 degrees. Now, the confusion I got with these types of angles is, now, here's a right angle. I'm just going to use right angle, but this goes for all of them. We know it's 90 degrees, but sometimes you'll see that angles are turned like that. It's still 90 degrees. Don't get confused if you see the angles turned a little bit. Same thing for, let's say, an acute angle. Now, by looking at this, we know this is an acute angle because they are closer together. If it was turned a little bit, like that, are the rays still closer together? Yes, so it's an acute angle. So don't get confused when you see the angles turned a little bit, okay? Look at it carefully to see if you can tell. So those are the types of angles we learned. Then we moved on to parallel, perpendicular, and intersecting. Okay, so first you learned what parallel was, and those are two lines that will never cross. So I said, think of the lines in the middle of the road. You can think of train tracks. No matter how far they go, they're never going to cross. And they're always the same distance apart. So there. Oh, my line. See, that would not be one. There. But if I was to draw these two lines, if I continued on with them, they would eventually cross, so that would not be parallel lines. Then we learn perpendicular, and that is we'll cross to make right angles. So basically just a right angle, think of the 90 degrees, think of the perfect square. If I had my right angle, they were to keep going to be perpendicular, okay? Think of right angle. They'll always cross to make a right angle. And then our last word was intersecting. And those are just two lines that will cross. They're always going to cross, but they're not going to make a right angle. So this is intersecting lines. So notice that if I was to measure this with my protractor, it would not be 90 degrees right here. So here, that's intersecting lines. They're not 90 degrees, okay? And then the last two words you learned was horizontal and vertical. So horizontal is just a line straight across. Remember, I said to think of the horizon. It's the line where like the land or the water meets the sky. And then vertical. Just straight up and down. So to think of like a flagpole. And then, so if you were to look at a shape, like a square, we have 2 horizontal lines and 2 vertical lines. Okay, so those was a lot of vocabulary words, but these are super important, and you're going to need to know these for the rest of your time in school. You need to know the difference between all these lines. So today is just going to be a review of all those words. Okay, and let me know if you have any questions.